Hey Planeswalkers, welcome to today's episode of Friday Night Meta, weekly series here on the channel where we give you the latest and greatest decks all throughout each of the different formats here in Magic the Gathering Arena across best of 1 and best of 3. I'm excited to break down today's episode for you. The timestamps are available to you down below. If you happen to have a question or comment, do let me know. Feel free to swing by the Discord server. Other great ways to stay connected down below. Thank you for the likes and the subscribes as well. All right, so let's get moving here. When we start off with standard best of 1, we start in totality here today. We got Azora Soldiers in the best slot right now, followed by Mono White, Mono Black Control, Mono Red Burn, Mono Black Aggro. Then Mono Black Aggro certainly making waves, starting to make more of a comeback. Mono Blue Tempo popping back in, Mono Red Aggro, and then Grixis mid-range really starting to pull into more of this, as you can see, about 50% here, as things are starting to consolidate a little bit more since Brothers War has been out for a little bit. And on the right, you can see exactly where the popularity is of today. Mono Red Burn, Azora Soldiers being the top 2 key decks being played right now. So a little bit of shifting going on between last week. We've definitely covered a lot of these decks, particularly the Soldiers decks this week, and you can check those out. So here's what we got going on. As we go down below, we can see a lot of these changes happening in terms of some of the meta. You can see that Mono Red Burn, again, still being very popular. Azora Soldiers really going off and coming up. Well, we see Mono White kind of coming down, Mono Black Aggro starting to go back up. Again, I've talked about the key differences with this deck. Along with Mono White, I prefer the Azores one for a couple of those key reasons that you can check out. So again, here win rates over time starting to get more compressed because as these just more time that the sets have been around, we start to see a little bit more tightening in the meta, which is exactly what's happening. So let's go ahead to the competitive space. We'll see if anyone's at Mythic now. Very, very few. Again, we're still relatively early. We got to get about halfway through the month because we're still in that December season, but we will take a look here. Azora Soldiers, Mono Black Aggro, Mono Red Burn being the key decks to be played. And then as you can see here on the right, the popularity, again, talked about these 3 as well already. All right, so let's back off that. Let's go over to best of 3 here for standard. Best of 3 standard. Esper Legends, super fun deck. Then we got Mardu Angels, also a great one. Azora Soldiers, Mono Black Aggro, Grixis midrange, Esper midrange, Mono Blue Tempo, and Azores Control. So again, 2 here that across the meta, not being at about 50%, so I expect some of this stuff to change. On the right, you can see Grixis midrange is heavily played. Really fun deck. Azores Control and Mardu Angels as well. Esper midrange in there, so lots of things, but very consolidated there towards the top. Here on the right, you can see that popularity again, that Grixis midrange really doing well. We start to see that Azores Control popping up there, and then on the right here, win rates over time. You can kind of see that again, Mardu Angels has probably been the most consistent, as these other ones kind of have moved up and down. So let's see if anything's in the competitive space here. We do have Grixis midrange at the top of that 63%, almost 40% played here in best of 3. So let's go all the way out. We'll go over to Alchemy. Alchemy here, best of 1, Mono Red Goblins staying on top with 65%. We got Rakdos Sacrifice, Selesnya Enchantments, Gruul Werewolves, Mono Red Aggro, Mono Black Control. And then on the right, you can see Mono Red Aggro is almost at 22%, Rakdos Sacrifice at 12, the Mono Red Goblins at almost 9. Very heavily dominated there between black and red for those colors in Alchemy. Then as we come down, you can see how much Mono Red Aggro has been popular. Again, kind of decreased, then pick back up here at the beginning of the December season. And then also you can see that really strong climb with Mono Red Goblins starting off a little bit strong, fell off and came back up. Looks like Mono Black Control falling off, which probably made some of the difference in that Goblin stuff. Let's go ahead and go to Mythic here. Nothing in Mythic. Let's take one step back and see what's going on in Diamond. We've got a little bit in Diamond. Again, staying pretty steady Eddie relative to what we saw there before on the wider screen grab shot of the meta. Best of 3 here, we got Rakdos Sacrifice, Mono Red Goblins, Esper midrange, and then you can see Mono Red Goblins here at 34%, Rakdos midrange at 32, Esper midrange at 2, and then again you can see how all this is playing out here in terms of popularity over time. Starting to see some of the win rate compression definitely making an impact there. All right, so let's go back out to best of one. Now we got historic. Historic Is It Wizards is now at the top. Then we got mono green elves, Celestia life gain, Rakdos mid-range, Is It Belcher falling quite a bit, Gruul land destruction pulling in more, then mono red goblins making a little bit of a pop there at the bottom for 8. On the right here, Is It Wizards, we see popularity at almost 11%, followed by mono green elves, Celestia life gain, Is It Belcher, Gruul land destruction really starting to get in there. And then again on the right, you can see this popularity. Here was what we talked about, really pulling in. Mono red goblins kind of doing the same. We see Rakdos mid-range falling off. Everything else kind of coming down. Then on the right, mid-range win rate, we can see that Gruul land destruction is really starting to come up more. Some other stuff a little bit falling off as the compression in the meta there. Let's get over to Mythic and see what we got going on. Nothing there. Let's go to Diamond quickly. So in Diamond, we see a few changes here. We see Azor's Affinity. We do lose Boros Affinity as well, which is kind of interesting because that's been a very popular list. So that's something to keep an eye out on in terms of what's happening in this space and in the meta for historic best of one. All right, let's pop all the way back out and go over to best of 3 here. Best of 3, we got Rakdos Goblins, Rakdos midrange, Azor's Control, Is It Wizards, mono red aggro, Azor's Affinity, Esper Control, Teamer Gate still at that 40%. That's been fairly consistent there. Lots of people still playing it, 2% at least, but gets you in the popularity. Rakdos midrange, Azor's Control, Azor's Affinity, and Is It Wizards. Those 3 decks really kind of dominating it there. And then again, you can see Rakdos midrange falling off. We do see Azor's Control falling off. Azor's Affinity kind of steady Eddie. Some of the win rates coming up when we see that with Azor's Control. Some of the other stuff kind of falling down. The rest going sideways there. We'll go to Diamond for the more competitive today. Rakdos midrange doing 72%, which is super well in the historic meta, almost at 27% played, followed by Azor's Affinity at 14, Is It Wizards, and then Azor's Control. Now again, you can see that popularity diving, but the win rate's going up. So that's a good telltale sign a lot of times as well, and what you should play. All right, so let's pop back out. So that completes historic. Now we're on to Explorer here. So for Explorer this week, we got mono blue spirits followed by Celestia Angels, Abs and Greasefang in there, mono red aggro, Rakdos Sacrifice, Azor's Control, Rakdos midrange, mono red burn being slightly under 50%. On the play here for popularity, we got Celestia Angels, Abs and Greasefang, mono red aggro, mono blue spirits. So really making up that top 4, kind of dominating that aggro. Yeah, or meta, very close though in the bottom, a little bit off on mono red burn there. And then when we come down here, lots of compression and popularity over time here, particularly in this December season and when Brothers War came out, as you can see. And then the win rates here, mono blue spirits still doing very well. We see a little bit of Celestia Angels popping up and down. And then we do see same thing with Abs and Greasefang gyrating quite a bit there, and along with mono red burn. So lots of changes there with the meta, which can be a good thing depending on what's being played and popularity for the week. Let's see if we got anything at Mythic here. Nope. So let's go to Diamond. Here in Diamond, Boros Prowess is in there. A little bit different, so that's a big shift in terms of seeing those things. So that's something to keep an eye on in terms of competitive space. A few players on that, but definitely making an impact and a difference there. So that's a big one to pay attention to. We'll keep an eye on that as things kind of evolve. All right, so that is Explorer Best of 1. Over in Best of 3, we got some play. We got Celestia Angels at the top, Gruul midrange, mono blue spirits, Abs and Greasefang, Rakdos midrange, Azor's Control, 4 color fires, mono green devotion, Rakdos midrange at 21, Azor's Control at 15, mono blue spirits at about 8. So that's really the smattering of decks there. As you can see, those 2 are climbing there, mid-range and Azor's Control. Kind of same that was going on with Brothers War here. And then win rate, Celestia Angels just really doing well there in terms of that win rate and what's happening in the meta. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll look at Diamond, see if there's a few things. Yep, Celestia Angels at the top, Rakdos midrange, Abs and Greasefang, Azor's Control, mono blue spirits. And on the right, again, heavily dominated by those top 3. And then we can see what's happening there. All right, so let's go all the way out. And that leads us to our last format here, Historic Brawl. So again, the first sliver still at the top there. Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief is a new one. Kinnan Broader Prodigy, Go Shintai of Life's Origin, Urza Lord Protector in there, Tadiova, Benthic Druid, Golos, and Joda. So very, very fun there. And then as you can see at the top, Urza's been doing pretty good in terms of popularity. Same thing with the first sliver. Seems that this top three have kind of been trending up, which is great. Win rates here, the first sliver really doing well with Brothers War here. And then additionally, you kind of see Kinnan bouncing around. Kinnan's always been a strong historic Brawl meta deck. All right, Planeswalkers, that pulls us all the way back. We have ran through the meta for you here in about 10 minutes, so very fast. As always, I hope you enjoyed the weekly series. If you got a question or comment, do let me know. A lot of these decks we're getting through on the channel. You should definitely check them out. Love to hear your feedback and comments. As always, what decks you're playing, that fun stuff and why, and things that you're swapping on the decks. With that, Planeswalkers, thank you as always for your support. Appreciate the likes and the subs. Other great ways to stay connected on the channel down below. Again, questions, comments, do let me know. Feel free to come swing by the Discord server. Lots of Planeswalkers in there hanging out, and other great ways to stay connected here. So with that, Planeswalkers, you have a great week. Until next week, we'll see you again soon with our lovely Friday Night Meta series here on the channel. Take care. Mythras out.